town. And
very cool.
yeah.
Well, hello, fellow Tennesseans.
Hello. Glad to have you on board.
Yeah, you as well.
Anytime you're ready, Sherry, got it.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Brian Sebastian's Movie Reviews and More. Today, we're going to have a nice, fun, relaxing day, and we're going to introduce you to my new friend, someone that's going to be able to make you laugh, relax, and, just enjoy yourself by just knowing this man. Our guest today is Ric Chetter. He's an entrepreneur. He's a radio station owner. He is an actor and a voiceover actor. He is Ric Chetter, owner of Radio Memphis. Many in Memphis already know Mr. Chetter by his smooth, velvety voice that calms anyone, but he's also a man that they call the captain of a motley band of pirates that is Memphis Radio. Memphis Radio it's a radio station that we can all access. It is home to independent artists from the Memphis area. It is also a place where there's so many fun shows such as the Booze and Blues, Radioland, and my favorite, the Heavyweight Chumps. And the Heavyweight Chumps, they sent a message to Mr. Chetter. It says, Maddox and Thunder Cookies are forever thankful for the opportunity that you took on the Heavyweight Chumps. But they want you to know that they were the first to meet a girl from Canada who was in Maxim first. So I was fortunate to be on their show. And then I was fortunate to meet Mr. Chetter on his show, Radioland. So everyone, I'm pleased to introduce to you Mr. Ric Chetter, and we're going to have some fun with him today on Brian's show.
Well, thank you so much. I don't know what to. Good night, everybody. You said it all right there. It's just time for me to pack it up and go home. This is some nice words. And as far as the chumps are concerned, those lying bastards, I tell you got to watch those boys.
No, I was talking to him last night, and they said that they're looking forward to us all coming down to meet in person. But he goes, you might leave with wood ticks. So I don't know what you guys are going to be doing.
I said, you gotta take what they say with a salt lick. Actually,
they're the best.
Well, we had talked about when you were on the from Radioland show, we had talked a little bit about you coming down to Memphis. So you said this was kind of on your bucket list of places to come spend some time, and certainly you'll leave here with more fun and maybe a hangover than anything else. I mean, and it's if you leave at all, because Memphis tends to just kind of suck people into their orbit,
Well, Jessica, everyone knows she's from that area and everybody's in love with her. And I know, I can't wait to pal around with her down there. But no, Memphis seems to be a magnet of fun for sure.
It is. It's a fun city. It's an entertainment city. It's a music city, which is the existence of Radio Memphis and why that's a thing. Of course, right now, these days, it's been rather difficult. I think, fortunately, Memphis has been largely spared from the ravages of COVID-19. I mean, we do have our numbers and we do have a lot of sick folk here. I know quite a few of them. And it's really hurt the music industry here because we've had to close down a lot of the venues where this was going on. And you got a lot of musicians out there that are trying to figure out what to do. And, you mentioned the Booze and Blues show, and that's a show that features a lot of your older blues musicians. These guys have been around since the 40s and 50s, and they're not young people, and they are at one of our highest risk groups. And so you can't just send these guys out on stage with this kind of thing going on. And right now everybody's just trying to figure out really the best way to move forward with that. And we've decided back in March that we would put Booze and Blues on hiatus for a little bit, but it's coming back this Sunday of all times. This Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central, but without guests. It'll be myself and our co-host, Natalie Gable, and our producer, Mark Caldwell. And we're going to talk about what people can do to help these musicians and, keep the music going, keep the conversation going. And of course, we'll have a lot of guys calling in too. So that'll be handy.
Thank you for that.
Well, yes.
Thank you, because that's kind of what's been going on here. I mean, there are some places in Nashville that have opened up the live music, and but there's a jazz club in particular that has not opened to the public, but they have been doing some virtual things, and still musicians have been coming in performing to nobody personally live, but it is being performed for others to watch.
Yeah, we were doing that. There were a couple of places that were somewhat famously trying that route, and it, Memphis is such a funny town. Nashville may be the same way too, is that when a Memphis musician hits a Memphis stage, there's this kind of a lukewarm, weird, mediocre response to it. But if a Memphis musician goes anywhere outside of this town, they're met with a large crowd. And I know the same thing happens with Nashville artists that come here, because Radio Memphis does play artists from Nashville, because there's not really a station like us. So we've included Nashville and Little Rock and that big circle, if you want to divide it up like that. And it's good to be a part of that scene, because it's really, really tough as it is. As you know, we were talking not long ago about how the music industry here these days are probably, you're going to see about half of what it used to be, even post pandemic. And that's a pretty frightening thing to look at. And
Yes,
if you're a working traveling musician, what do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Well, I feel like I've experienced my own personal Christmas miracle this year, because I haven't been able to perform live since March, I think, was my last performance, and it was actually in Europe. So I haven't even performed live in the States. Maybe in January or something, but I'd written it off. I didn't think it was going to be a thing at all for this year. And then
Right.
The opportunity came up to be a part of the Good Time Carolers Nashville, which is actually Good Time Productions out of LA. And so we've been singing Christmas carols at the Gaylord Opryland Hotel and Resort with masks outside, socially distanced from everybody, but it's still open to the public. So masks are mandatory. But it has been, my heart is so full of happiness and joy and thankfulness to be able to actually do this, because like you said, musicians and entertainers in general, it hasn't been a thing. And you don't realize how much you get used to it, both public listening and also the entertainers themselves, until it's gone. But we can't see their mouths, but we also have experience from the guests that have been able to hear music, the little children especially. They're dancing, so all you see is this, but at least it's happy, right? And
Sure.
it's such a rarity this year. So it's just been a big blessing. And like I said, for me, just to be able to do anything live has been so great.
Absolutely. And Jessica, you need to send some of your music to me. I'd like to get you on Radio Memphis. We'll
Awesome.
conclude that business a little bit later. I don't want to take up Brian's show
Thank you.
here.
That's cool. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
You bet.
I'm in.
Sure. We'll
Hey,
take
Rick,
it.
talk about
Yes.
what it's like. There was traditional, I always say, before last September to where we are now. How are you seeing things change in that area? Because what I'm seeing in Vegas, what I'm seeing in California, and from my friends around the world, it's not good, not at all. But it looks, it is up to us to help a lot of on the musician sides, just like I'm helping people on the movie side. There's not a lot of outlets to go to. And it's very, very sad.
It is. It's very frustrating as well, as you can imagine, because what does a musician do who has spent their most of their, or the majority of their performance or professional life working as a working musician to be paid as such, and now what they're going to go work at a grocery store? Are they becoming a frontline worker, or are they they're trying to get funding in some way, shape, or form just to stay alive? And a lot of that stuff is dried up, and it makes for a very frightening situation. One of the organizations that we work with through Radio Memphis is the Memphis Blues Society. And just before the pandemic hit, they'd started a thing called the Papa Don McMinn Musicians Fund. And that was designed to have some money in the bank. So when somebody, one of the older musicians got sick, or if they needed an emergency home repair or something along those lines, we could kick in a few bucks and help get these guys what they needed. But that's all gone. That's all been dried up. And we've heard from far too many musicians who have spent time in the hospital, or even worse, that have passed away. And that there's some organizations that are there to help, but they have families, and it's just truly a heartbreaking thing. So, we've been trying to do things like steer them into online concert services that exist out there, like it's sort of, if you want to think of it sort of like Facebook, but these are actual events that you pay ticketed money to as a fan, and then you get a personal live experience, much like what we're doing here. And they're able to put on these shows, and sometimes they just don't have the wherewithal to pull that together. And, you know, is it a living room show? Is it a kitchen show? I mean, and it just, I don't know, people are funny, you know, audiences are kind of strange that way. They'll gladly shell out all the big bucks when Netflix, you know, raises their rents, but they're, you know, raises their monthly on that, but they don't want to throw $4, $5, $10 to an act that's really doing it just to stay alive. And that's the fear. So I think, you know, like what we're going to start with on Sunday evening is just having a conversation with them and find out what it is that they need, and see if we can help kind of think differently about the way things were done. Sure, it'd be great to open up a bar and light up the stage and send an actor up or an act out there, but at the same time, we have to be reasonable about these sorts of things.
Absolutely.
I also think of, you know, there was a documentary that Ken Burns did that I like, the history of country music. I love that. I'm still rotating a lot of the things because what you just said, this is why our site, IT247 out of Franklin, Tennessee is huge, because giving those musicians a second chance. I know a lot of the people that are on that site are the ones that you're talking to, or the ones that are still alive. It's very, very sad, and my heart goes out to them. And I was so honored when we went down there 3 years ago. I had no idea I was going to end up helping a lot of Southern musicians. I'm honored to do what we can. And again, I can't wait till Sherry comes in so we can show her the South, because that's your neck of the woods and that's Jessica's neck of the woods. I'm like a visitor, but my Southern mom is Edie Hand. So, you know, well, being welcomed into the Elvis Presley band, it makes me feel honored meeting the Mandrells, and Dolly's still there and those people. But once they're gone, there's nobody to replace them. And that's really, really sad.
It was difficult before, because it, you know, especially when you're talking about like the blues, because it seems like it's such an old genre that nobody cares about in some aspect, but they miss it when it's not there. Yeah. And there has been, thankfully, some younger artists that are approaching that genre and trying to pick up the mantle, but all of that's been jerked out from under them thanks to this pandemic. And it makes for a horrific scene. And, you know, yes, the you know, COVID-19 is a very scary thing. You know, I think we're all of us, whether you're a musician or an actor or whatever you are, there's always that thing in the back of your head that, you know, God, I hope I'm not next. But at the same time, for a musician, it's even more scary, because it's like, maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. And the worst thing almost is that I won't, but I'm out of work. And what am I going to do? You know, am I going to lose my home? Am I going to be able to feed myself or my family? You know, hell, am I even going to put gas in the car and get where I need to go? So that's part of the fear, and it compounds itself the longer this goes on. And, you know, when you hear them talk about, well, there's a stimulus package in Congress or whatever, it has turned into this political mess. It means nothing to these artists. They don't care. They just, there's an automatic distrust of the man anyway, and rightfully so. And, you know, I wish we all had, or any one of us would have those proper answers. And, you know, we just, right now, I think we're all focused on trying to protect ourselves and protect our fans along the way. But there is that fine line where you got to work, you know. What was it? John Lee Hooker once said, if you ain't playing, you paying.
Right.
Is that right, Jessica? You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, you know, this caroling gig, it's not, I'm having to drive just to get there. And it's not the biggest paying gig ever, but hey, it's something. I haven't been getting anything this year because of not being able to perform live. So I totally get it. One of the other girls that I'm singing with, she is a classical opera soprano, and she was working at Chick-fil-A. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's what you got to do. And I said, girl, do it to it. Whatever you got to do to make ends meet. That's where we're at. But on the positive side of it, at least, you know, it's not something that it's going to make us stop trying, because it's what we do. It's our love and our passion, and not just musicians, but everybody needs music. We all need music, period. COVID or no COVID, music's a thing. So
I was talking to a musician just late last week about this, and he brought up a very interesting point. And Jessica, I think you might be able to really relate to this, in that he said that no matter what happens, coming out of this, there'll be some fantastic records that are going to be released, because there's going to be so many people that have been able to stay at home and protect themselves. And they sit and they do what they do best, which is write music. And if they're fortunate enough to have a home studio, they're going to start cranking out some stuff. And boy, howdy, I think we're going to be in for a treat of a whole wave of brand new music. And I'm looking forward to it through the radio station, of course, but just to hear it and to hear what people are doing when they've been confined and taken away from an audience. These extroverted people are now going, oh man, I'm stuck at home and I've seen all of Netflix. How many times are you going to watch Tiger King before you want to blow your brains out? It's one of those things. So yeah, I get it. There's going to be a lot of great music that's coming, and like we've seen in the past too. I mean, history sort of defines some of the music that comes out. There's, in the 60s during the civil rights movement, we heard these fantastic songs that were about those things, or during the Vietnam War, the anti-war music that came out. So it'll be interesting to see what pandemic music is going to bring our way. So it'll be fun to see it come into our language and our culture of things.
Yeah. Well, speaking of music and stuff, do you sing as well? I know that you're a voiceover artist and you do radio. Are you a musician or vocalist, or do you like to dabble in that kind of thing?
I don't sing, not even in the shower. I'm usually talking to myself in the shower or cussing myself from the night before. But no, I do play a little bit of guitar, just kind of a self-taught thing. But I see, because I also own a recording studio, so you tend to, when you're hanging around these people, you tend to pick things up. And guitar was one of the things that I've been playing since I was a kid. So yeah, it's one of those things. But no, I don't sing. I spend most of my time doing what I'm doing, which is running my mouth.
Rick, given that you and Jessica, this is for you if you don't mind. Given that you're both in the, what do they call Memphis, is the origins of great music. Rick, so as a young boy, who was your godfather that just caught your ear, and to follow that, who today that is unknown that will catch our ear? And if Jessica, you could perhaps answer that as well.
Memphis is known as the home of the blues and the birthplace of rock and roll, which I'm sure is a big part of that. And as you spend time studying it, you tend to learn the history of it. And everybody knows the story of Elvis and the ground zero of rock and roll over at Sun Studio. When you look back a little bit, you'll discover that there's some pre-rock and roll that was really, really interesting. And I'm talking specifically about the swing era during the Second World War. Guys, of course, like Glenn and Pete Fountain, all those cats that were really cranking out this jazz, and it was done a little bit different. And that was the seeds of rock and roll, and that was the stuff that really got. Glenn Miller was, I think, one of the artists that really grabbed my attention as a young guy. And then, of course, I went down the jazz road beyond that, and to this day, I still love listening to stuff like anything from Thelonious Monk to Miles Davis and all of that. Radio has sort of ruined me to a lot of music, as you can imagine. I spent 14 years here in Memphis as a morning drive and afternoon drive jock for a classic rock station. And frankly, I can go the rest of my life without hearing Bob Seger play Turn the Page for the rest of my life. It would be fine with me. I hate to be so weird and glib about it, but when you spend that much time just nailing those records to the back of people's heads, it gets a little tiring. But nowadays, I mean, the fortunate thing about Radio Memphis and that we focus on unsigned and unknown talent, we're seeing a lot of really, really talented people. And these are, real young folks that come in and are all wide-eyed and excited to be a part of the scene. And I really can't name any names particularly because they're all so good and they're all so intelligent about it. And they come into it with this really neat innocence about what it is that they're doing. They're approaching their art in that clean way. Now that all gets spoiled when money starts entering the picture, but it's nice to see that there's a lot of really delightful young talent that's coming up that I think is going to be, they're going to do what they're going to do. I mean, we are, Radio Memphis it's not like your top tier artist. We're like your top second tier artist. And these are the people that are about to break. And we've had a few that did break big. And it makes me feel good that we were sort of in a small part a way to help them and for them to be a part of that. So yeah, I'm very proud of a lot of the young musicians that we've seen, and it's all genres. And that's the beautiful thing about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, for my background is, it's the Bible Belt, right? So I was very much exposed to Southern gospel music And my father was actually in the gospel quintet when I was younger. And so my ear is very trained and is, I guess, still very much partial to men's voices and harmony parts. And so I like the rich sound. I think that's why I like harmony so much now, is because that's what I always listened to when I was younger. So I would say the Southern gospel realm. Michael English from the Gaither vocal band, I think back in the 90s, was kind of like my vocal hero. Everything that he did, because it was very soul, it had a lot of soul pop to it, but it was still the gospel side of things. And I think that's been very much a big influence on my background. And moving forward, I've sung all different kinds, and because of it, I think I can't really pinpoint my absolute favorite right now. I do enjoy performing jazz standards. So when Rick was talking about jazz and Glenn Miller and all that stuff, that was definitely right up my alley. And as for, I think, music now, I'm also kind of on the same page as Rick in that there's just so much new stuff that's coming out, and I'm blown away by what people are coming up with, and the types of, and also with technology, the things that you can do, where there could be sounds where you're like, I need a cello. You're like, well, I don't have a cello player. Well, let me just pull it up on my plugin over here, and it sounds great. Now, no offense, I'm sorry for the cello players out there, but we can't get to you anyway. So it's not like we can bring you in. But so musically, I think now it's I'm inspired by all the things. If I want to get specific, I do enjoy Snarky Puppy, which is jazz fusion. I really enjoyed them. And one of my favorite go-tos on the ship when we would sing outside of the regular shows that we did was Gone Under. And it's from one of the Snarky Puppy albums. So if anybody wants to go listen to that, it's a great song. But yeah.
Way to work the plug there, hon.
Yeah.
So for
you always gotta do that.
For many of the viewers, and you can comment below. Rick has several fun segments that he does. One, it's called Tips for Teens, which I don't think we can do here.
No, probably not. It's really inappropriate tips for teenagers is what it boils down to.
Yeah. And then there's the other one of how not to be that guy. And so, Rick, I've got a few that we put out, and a few people picked their favorites. And I'm curious after if you could tell us what inspired you, because as you say, it's an effort to help humanity is why you've created these segments. So I'd like to know how it started and your favorite, how not to be that guy. But Brad Pittman from Spoke Meat Podcast, he said, hey, dude with the truck nuts, you are that guy, which I don't know means. And then
I do.
They don't have truck nuts in British Columbia. Oh, for God's sake.
I was gonna say, when you come to Tennessee, you'll know.
You'll leave here with a pair of them. That's what that'll be.
Maybe I'm driving one and I'm that girl. Okay, and then Angela said you ordered that dish from the menu and half of it you said and ate half of it and sent it back. You are that guy. So Rick, I know you're not any of that guy. So what inspired it, and is there a memorable you are that guy for you?
That bit's been around a long time. It comes from usually, you'll read a story or hear about something really silly, like Florida Man. That's that whole concept of being this brazen idiot that we all are. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl. It doesn't really matter. I mean, hell, even myself, and I do poke fun at myself with that a lot. That. It is sort of in a way to help humanity in some aspect or not, but part of it too is just to shine a light on the stupid, and sometimes we need to kind of do that. Because it's a daily bit and it happens so often, I don't know that I have a favorite because they're kind of that way. I can tell you what this morning's was. It was tied to a story about people that have been really flooding the airports flying out for the holidays. And I mean, there was like 3 million people this past weekend that were getting on planes. And it was just after the CDC said, hey, don't travel, stay at home. And there's all these other people that say, no, screw that. I got to go have grandma's pie and all this other stuff. And the line was to the effect of, grandma's, you're being that guy when you're willing to die over grandma's pecan pie. It's dark, I know, but that's but that's the reality of it. And as we talk about COVID and the realities of that goes on as well, we also try and provide a little bit of an escape from it, because we're all surrounded by it. I can't swing a dead cat without hitting a story about COVID, and it's affected everything. And we need to have that levity, because as I mentioned earlier, I think that the fear of what's going on in everybody's world right now it's consuming. It's all consuming. And I think to a certain extent, it could trigger, some post-traumatic stress disorder out of this, because we're all a little jumpy every time somebody sneezes or coughs. You just, you're doing this dance and you're trying to, steer people away from what you're doing. So yeah, it's gonna take a minute for all of us to get through this. But if I can, somehow bring a smile or a laugh out of it, not to be overly grim, of course, but to be a little cartoony about it, and we poke fun at ourselves first, of course, anyway. But that to me is important. I think it's the best way to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ric, one of the
Did that even
things
answer your question at all, Sherry?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Good.
totally did.
Ric, one of the things that people don't realize is radio stations have been affected by this. I was reaching out to NPR radio 2 years ago. I was reaching out to Regal Theaters 4 years ago. Where's Regal? Knoxville, Tennessee. I kept saying, you guys are going to need our help to do stuff. What's closed in Los Angeles, New Jersey, and New York? Movie theaters. I deal closely with Disney. There's nothing coming. Doesn't have anything coming until after May. And I kept telling these people, you're not seeing the signs. You got to pay attention to it, because if you can adapt, you can adjust, you're going to be okay. You do voiceovers. Voiceovers will never go away. And I keep telling my friends, do voiceovers, do Zoom, get yourself out there. People will see you and then they'll want to hire you because, guilty by a positive association, which is a great thing. What I do like from seeing all this, I like the fact that Sherry's going on other shows and getting introduced and getting a chance to see other people. I like the fact that Jessica's out there because, she's meeting more people because she could be stuck home doing nothing. I didn't know she was a great singer until I started looking at her YouTube stuff. I'm like, my God, why didn't she tell me this when I saw her last in person? She's a phenomenal singer. So my job is to help be that Barker, to tell everybody, this so-and-so is good here. So-and-so is good here. Yes, she does this too. Oh yeah, she does this too. Thank goodness for us, traditional and new people, those people getting on Zoom now, because everybody's doing it. You get a chance to spread the word in a positive way. That's the good thing.
Yeah, it is. I think it's important that we try and maintain some sense of positivity in the middle of all this without, I hate that term, when people go, oh, you're just being distracting. It's not being distracting at all. All of us have the ability to maintain several thoughts at one time. You'll see those stupid memes in social media that say, oh, well, everybody was talking about toilet paper. They all forgot about that. That's not true. Everything is so intense with this. Now, it's not possible to really perfect the art of multitasking, that's for sure, but you can wear different hats and you can do different things, Brian. And you're right that if you're in the entertainment business, you have to expand your ground a little bit. You got to step outside of your comfort zone in certain aspects or another. I never thought for a moment that I would ever be a voice actor for the audiobook world. I was always used to doing short form stuff, commercials for television and radio, but boy, howdy, man, there's a business for that. And people now, it's, they're stuck at home or they're stuck doing things, and there's nothing to listen to on commercial radio, on FM, that's for sure, because that's all been beat to death. And corporate's kind of killed that industry in and of itself. So, notwithstanding the stuff that we're doing, which is strictly independent and different, but, it's not all I do. And I can't do that. I have to find other ways, whether it's, being on a show like yours, which thank you, by the way, for having me on. It's doing a podcast, getting yourself out there, making sure people can be heard. And we have the ability with the internet to level that playing field. Well, we're all on the same field, and the cream gets a real good chance at rising to the top. And, it may take a little bit longer, but why not? What else are we going to do? In 1,000 years, none of this is going to matter anyway. And, I hate to put it quite like that, but, I'm here to, hopefully leave this world a bit of a better place than where I came into it. And if I can, do it through the act of show business, what else am I going to do? But, there's that. and you find a way. If you want it bad enough, you're going to find a way to stay out there. And we have that. We have so many tools, you know. These stupid phones have us the ability to have everything literally at our fingertips, whether it's news, whether it's entertainment, whatever it is that you want. And anybody can be a part of it if you allow yourself to step out of that comfort zone and do it.
Well, and Rick, God bless my grandmother. She lost her vision. So your voiceover work, if anyone's looking for a gift, my grandmother cherished those Audible books, you know. And again, as we said at the onset of the show, you've got that velvety smooth voice, so it gives comfort beyond the story of the audio that you're gifting. But Rick, since, as they say, you're the captain of the motley crew of pirates, what do you have coming up for Memphis radio that we need to know?
Just the same old stuff, really. I mean, I know that sounds glib and contrived, but it's a matter of consistency, and it's a matter of, you know, you make a good point about having that connection, that human connection. And I think no matter what happens, there's always going to be a desire for one person to have that connection with another person, whether it's through a book, whether it's through a radio show, whatever the case may be. I think we're all tired of talking to Siri. We're all tired of talking to Alexa, all of that stuff. It's having that connection, whether it's one way or not. It's knowing that somewhere out there, someone feels the same pains and fears and has those same fears that I have, and they share the same joys. And it's a matter of not feeling alone. And I think that's a big part of it. And people right now are feeling very alone, and they don't have to. And that's why I'm glad to be part of that.
Well, and I think that's why your radio station, you know, it's Radio Memphis. It's the place that you can once again go back to where it's not politically correct, where you're not allowed to say something. You can really relax and enjoy Rick's platform, because it's fun. It's a breath of fresh air again, because like you said, you've got, you know, what you want when you want it. You've got it at your fingertips to tap into Radio Memphis, because, you know, you'll be happier for it. You know, I am, you know, like I said, you know, Rick can become an addiction. You know, we all want more Rick. So I'm glad everybody got to meet him today.
Well, no, thank you so very much. You know, it's important to have those types of connections. And if we allow ourselves to be too beat up by it, it can become more detrimental. And there's that old cliched saying that we're all in this together. And it's very true. Is it, you know, is it going to be the thing that does us all in? No, it's not. We're all going to get through this. And, you know, it's okay to reach out and hold a hand every once in a while, even if it's through the virtual medium of the internet, or however it is that you have to have that connection. Maintain that, and it helps in a lot of aspects too, because now you can relate to something, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. So
Rick, what oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Jessica. Go ahead.
Well, this is just kind of a fun, fluffy thing, just because I'm curious. And I know that you do kind of a, hey, what's your favorite? You do like, what's your favorite song, or what's your favorite whatever. So because we're entering into the holidays, I'm curious, what is your favorite holiday thing to do? Whether it's, I mean, in a perfect world, if we weren't doing all of these things, would you go look at Christmas lights? Would you listen to music? Or do you even like to listen to music outside of doing it every day because that's your job? Like, what do you do? What's your holiday festivities?
Does bourbon count?
Yes, absolutely. We were talking about bourbon the other night during caroling. Yes.
I'm not, I don't listen to much music unless I'm auditioning it. Because I've been sort of, I don't know, spoiled by it, I suppose.
Sure.
I'm not a big Christmas guy. I think the holiday season to me goes from Halloween to the Super Bowl. And, you know, by the time Christmas Day comes, it seems like it's such a letdown. So the warm up to it is nice. And as far as tradition, my family never really had that. I never really had that. A lot of it was, you know, for most of my working life, I was the guy that was working on the holiday, you know, so it was just another day of the week, you know, for what it was. The only real tradition that I do have is on Christmas Eve, as we get close to midnight, I will often step outside with a drink in my hand and think a little bit about this past year. and like everybody else, kind of hope for the best. I know that's more of a New Year's thing, but at Christmas is a good time to start thinking about turning that page and bringing a little freshness to the world, and maybe a change of attitude or mind might not be a bad idea.
Of course.
Rick, we got about 2 minutes
a good
left.
quiet night. They're still around.
Yeah, you got 2 minutes. Yeah. Well, I best shut
No,
up.
Rick.
I can feel that in a heartbeat.
Rick, can you tell the audience where to find you, please?
Yes, you can find me at radio-memphis.com. I'm on the air 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. That's Central Time. Just up there that you can find the podcast from Radioland. You can find me in social media. Just search my name. It's Ric Chetter without a K, just RICCHETTER. You can find me in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm in those spaces there. So yeah, hunt me down. I'm findable. As a matter of fact, Jessica, I just sent you a friend request.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
And
Right
Rick,
away. I'll get on that.
You'll love Jessica as much as we do. She'll be an asset to your platform.
I'd love to have her on the show too. That'd be big. We'll have a little discussion without you guys involved. Yeah, because
Yeah, bye guys.
Hey Rick, we gotta have you back for a part 2 eventually, because there's
absolutely.
The reason I say that, because, and I got about 60 seconds, there's a John Belushi film, the documentary on John Belushi on Showtime, which opens in about 2 weeks. But I'm trying to get the director on. It's about blues. It's how, the Blues Brothers came to fruition, with him and Dan Aykroyd being fellow Canadian. Everybody comes from Canada, for one, which is a great thing. But the thing about the love of blues, and you can never go wrong from that. And that's one of the things that kept him alive for as long as he did live. And then, when it stopped from that, he went back to doing drugs. And what the love of blues is what kept him going for the longest time. And you get a chance to see this in this great documentary, and it's called Belushi on Showtime within the next 2 weeks.
I'd love to be a part of that program. I've gotten to know the Blues Brothers drummer, Willie Hall, is a good friend of mine. He lives here in Memphis. In fact, he's my studio drummer at Radio Memphis. So yeah, I've heard all the stories, and some of the ones that you can't even tell.
Oh, that'd be wonderful if you could join us, Rick. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, we could probably make that happen. Just let me know, and I'm at your disposal.
And
okay,
as Rick was saying earlier,
I cheers to you.
And as Rick was saying earlier, because we got about 30 seconds, I always say this, but you said it. It's about giving someone else a smile. So if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of Rick's and Jessica's and Sherry's, because the world needs it. This is Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More, and we will see you next week.